Hello viewers, thank you for joining me. A lot of my reviews have been really short lately, and I know this one will be too. I find I just don't have as much to say about these slower, super lighthearted slice-of-life shows. I never want to force my reviews. If I ever go off on tangents, you can trust it's because there was something that really grabbed me about the story or characters that I just had to talk about. But I do feel kind of bad when a series that was voted in gets a review that seems a little lackluster. So here's your reminder to go vote in the poll for next month if you're here early. We'll do something a little more exciting for April. Flying Witch takes place in a version of the world where magic isn't well known, but isn't exactly a secret either. Tradition holds that when a witch in training turns 15, it's time for them to leave home and continue their studies more independently. But it is a modern world, and witches are still expected to finish high school, so our main protagonist, Makoto, is going to live with her cousins in the countryside. It's a sleepy, friendly little town, but rich in nature, a perfect environment for a witch. Flying Witch is the kind of show that's just kindness personified. It's entirely free of even an everyday kind of drama. There are never any arguments or misunderstandings with her cousins or new school friends or anything. It's very much a daily adventures kind of show, minus any kind of conflict. And this is exactly why my takeaways from this series will be so brief. I want to say flat out that this show is not bad by any means, but it's very much a matter of taste. I know there are people who find this kind of slice of life incredibly charming. If you want me to be honest, I find these kinds of shows to be painfully boring most of the time. And I knew this series was going to be on the slower side, but I'd been hoping the magic element would liven things up a little. There were some highlights throughout. Chinatsu, the younger cousin, quickly becomes enamored with Makoto and her abilities and decides she wants to train to be a witch herself. This series was at its best when it delved into witch culture and tried to teach you something, and Chinatsu's apprenticeship provided lots of extra opportunities for that. There was a pair of episodes where Makoto and the cousins go to a cafe run by a witch in the woods, and nothing really happens over those 2 episodes. They just find the cafe and watch its other patrons come and go. But all the other customers were some form of magic creature, and I liked being a little more enveloped in that world. If there's anything that can save practically any story, it's really likable, engaging characters. In my last review, for Beautiful Bones, I mentioned that the characters really swayed me over to having a mostly favorable view of that series, even though it ends without giving you a proper conclusion to the final conflict, a much bigger flaw than just being a little dull overall. In Flying Witch, Makoto grew on me by the end. She's sweet and humble, but fairly confident. She's portrayed as being a little clumsy. The very first thing you learn about her is that she has a comically bad sense of direction, and her spellcasting could use some work. But she's a talented seamstress, and is really knowledgeable about plants and all the medicinal avenues of witchcraft. I started to appreciate that there was a real grace to her demeanor, if not her actions. Her older sister, who's a traveling nomad type of witch, tended to bring a little extra flair to the story too. But everyone else was what I'd describe as generically likable or sweet. There's just not a whole lot to any of them. I never thought I'd see the day when I was the one advocating for some kind of romantic drama to spice up a story, but I did think this one needed an extra layer or two, and if Kay had been a childhood friend instead of a cousin, that could have been something to play with. I mentioned that this series was really a matter of taste, but I think there were some things that were objectively good. I really liked the music in this show, especially the main theme. It really fit the tone of the show and was always something that stood out in a positive way when it did stand out. That kind of high point isn't quite enough to balance out the things I didn't love about the series, the way really good characters might have, but it was enough of a highlight to be worth mentioning. There's one last point I want to end this on. By far my favorite episode was the second to last one, where they go to investigate a giant flying whale passing over their town. Atop the whale, they find the ruins of an ancient civilization. Visually, it's a very beautiful episode, very reminiscent of Castle in the Sky, which is fitting because if you grew up with Studio Ghibli as a major cornerstone of your childhood like I did, this tale of a young witch leaving home to further her studies and find herself probably reminded you of a different movie. If this type of slower, super peaceful slice of life is your kind of show, by all means, give Flying Witch a try, but if your tastes are a little more like mine, I'd suggest you save yourself some time and just rewatch Kiki's Delivery Service. Thank you for watching.